Previously, on the Melly cinematic universe. How great would it be to have a time machine? If only. Oh. Maybe one day. We'll see. Future me just bought me a mansion! Yeah, so that mansion future me bought me was kind of a scam. Ah! There's something else in here. Hello? Another robocall. I hate Luma so much. I'm not kidding, by the way. I've been Luma'd this entire recording session. Oh, that's not ketchup. It's blood! Let's just get it over with. Fuck Luma. I can't bring myself to play this game again. I just can't. Oh, Divine One, not again. I can't play Radiant Dawn with this. It's not even gluten-free. Hey fam, I'm Melly, and I hate Skyward Sword again. What? Why? Oh. Oh no. Not being able to take off the hat. I know. I was threatened. I will never play Skyward Sword again. I think I know what future Melly's been doing all along. Fuck Luma. Ah! Whoa! Where am I? Fuck Luma. The Fire Emblem. I get it now. I'm future Melly. I gotta play it again! I can't bring myself... Yes, hello, Mr. Wendy? Yeah, maybe one day I'll have my own time machine. Time travel shenanigans. Chrono Cross. It's about time. Get it? It's in the title! Hey fam. It's hot out, isn't it? It's currently 103 degrees incorrect, but it feels like 112. And as if the heat wasn't bad enough, Luma's out here telling us that we shouldn't use our electricity under threat of minimum 3-hour selective outages. Think about how that's been happening ever since they arrived, every single summer. Yeah, think about that. 3 hours in extreme heat. Fuck Luma. Oh, right, I said I'd talk about Chrono Cross. Fine, I guess. The first game that I actually chose to play. It wasn't given to me, or I wasn't forced to play it by an evil spirit. And mistakes were made. Terrible mistakes, in fact. Really, on my part, extreme mistakes were made. And this game has been in the cards since Book 1 or Season 1 looked like this. I did not like this game at all. Nothing about it, but I committed, so I guess I have to. Say what you will about me. I'm a Fire Emblem fan of my word. I didn't plan for this to happen, by the way. Also, for the sake of recording, I played the Switch port, which never came out physically in America. For no real reason. Cough cough, Baten Kaitos remake. So starting the game, we have to not start the game. Instead, we play the reason the HD port, which is the one I'm playing by the way, is called the Radical Dreamers Edition. Radical Dreamers Le Thracia in 776. A text-based RPG, but not text-based like menus, but text-based like actually text-based. Everything is text. No menu systems, no sprites, just text. How else can I explain the concept of a text-based game? You play as a player insert whose default name is Surge, a new member in the gang of thieves known as the Radical Dreamers, along with their leader, Kid, and a mysterious masked man, Magil. Gee, I wonder who he's supposed to be. Bet he doesn't have any combo text. These three characters, along with most other named characters and the actual story, are an early version of the events of Chrono Cross, along with the treasure you're looking for, the Frozen Flame. It's not very fun. The fact that it's so slow kills it, and it becomes more confusing the more you go on. Most of the text-based games I've seen before use cardinal directions to denote your movement, so instead of saying forward or back, they say walk east, walk west. This game uses the former system, making it very, very easy to lose your way and go in circles. Either that, or I have no sense of direction. Both are equally likely. As you move, the image in the background will reflect where you are, and there's something to look at, which at the very least sets this above that one part in Nier Replicant. The art is still pretty good though. As for the combat, because there is combat, it's... what am I even doing? There's no random chance for hit rate or if you get a critical. Instead, each option gives a predetermined result, which means that yes, if you choose wrong, you get hit, and if you keep choosing wrong, because how would you know what to choose at any given moment without a guide or trial and erroring your way through, you die. The same way I did, without saving. I was 2 hours in, 2 hours wasted, and I was not gonna go through it all again. So I looked it up. You don't actually need to play the Radical Dreamers in order to understand Chrono Cross. So, skip. Alright, so the actual game. I don't like it. The intro cutscene, it has nice music, sure, but it suffers from the same thing Final Fantasy VIII has, where the intro is just things happening. A lot of pretty pictures moving about without actually telling you anything, and, spoiler, that is not the only bad thing it has in common with Final Fantasy VIII. But more on that later. Really, I can't follow a single thought here. There's a cat, then a hell demon, then a baby. This doesn't tell me anything about what I should expect from the game, and I am being way too critical over something that doesn't really matter. After recovering your eyesight, we, Surge and Kid from the other game, arrive in a random in medias res dungeon as if we were playing a post-awakening Fire Emblem game, with a randomly selected character in tow. More cutscenes that don't make sense show up, and we're thrown into an intro similar to the original Chrono Trigger, with Surge waking up, but I decided he drew his curtains back down and went to sleep again. Looking back, that's kind of how my experience with the game went. And I should have listened. I'm sorry, but I do not like this Final Fantasy X beachside village aesthetic. I wonder if I'll ever stop making Final Fantasy comparisons. Maybe it's foreshadowing. Jokes aside, this setting just does not work for me. It doesn't make me uncomfortable like the 1800s Oregon Trail covered wagon setting, but I find it boring and uninteresting. I'm sure the rest of the game isn't like this, but it's a bad start nonetheless. Especially when the actual bad hasn't even started. Over by this dock we meet Girl, and Girl asks us to get some things, but when we get things, water happens and Girl doesn't know us. In fact, nobody knows us, because now Surge is dead and has been dead for 10 years. I didn't care at all. It just sort of happened way too early. Why would I care about what happens to the main character when I haven't had the chance to get to know him? I get the feeling they tried to replicate Chrono's death, but Chrono actually sacrificed himself to save the world and, above all, his friends. We, as the player, had spent quite some time to get to know Chrono, even though he doesn't speak. This guy, all we know is that his name is Surge and he went back to sleep. Anyway, while we are back over on the beach, we're shown how combat works in Chrono Cross. And I don't think a game's combat has turned me off from it as quickly as this one. The combat just doesn't make sense to me. It's so strange and basic, it becomes overly complicated. It was easier to understand the combat in Xenosaga 2, and that game's combat is... not the rose. Anything but the rose. Looking at the UI alone tells you this game has like 17 different combat mechanics that don't match all that well together, and expects you to roll with it. Your characters have a stamina stat that maxes out at 7. It works similar to Xenogears, except it's not as refined or interesting. Whereas the latter lets you use one attack per point in order to string actual combos, this game's normal attacks each have a stamina cost. The higher the stamina cost, the higher the damage, but also your chances to miss. In fact, that percentage doesn't matter. I found that if your hit rate is below 100, you will reliably miss. Seriously, I can't remember how many 80s and 90s I flat out missed repeatedly. I have better luck with hit rate in Fire Emblem. And that's saying something. As you keep landing basic attacks, these bars below each character's name begin lighting up. And these are your elements. Elements are basically the magic of this game, but they also include items. And this is where I just could not with the combat. You know how everyone hates on Final Fantasy VIII, here I go again, because magic is essentially expendable items that you just use akin to potions or Phoenix Downs. This game is the same, except they're not just items that you can find in the world, dropped by enemies, or purchased. They are one-use only items. One use only per battle. I want you to really think about that for a second. Only being able to cast Cure once. Being able to revive a fallen party member once. Sure, you can equip more than one of each at a time, fine. Doesn't take away from the fact that this is just a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. Elements each have a level, and you cannot equip an element if the level is higher than your own. Reasonable enough. The lower the level tier, the more you can equip, and they cost 7 stamina to use. And then you learn that stamina can dip below 0, so you're stuck waiting for your stamina to refill. As if their one-use only aspect wasn't bad enough, there's 2 more things you need to keep an eye on when using them to their maximum potential. Innate color and the field effect. Innate colors is like types in Pokemon. Red is strong against blue and vice versa, same for green and yellow, and then black and white. Simple enough to grasp, make sure you use the stronger color against enemies, fine. And then you see the sideways avocado on the top left corner and you realize Chrono Cross was never designed to be fun or enjoyable in any way. The field effect tells you the last 3 elements' colors in order, the innermost oval being the last one, and so on. The game works such that you need to use the field effect to maximize the damage dealt. If all 3 tiers are the same color you're using, you'll deal more damage. If they're the opposite color, you'll do less damage. If they're another color, you do normal damage. It doesn't sound like a bad idea, but it becomes a pain to use when you're building up the combo and then the enemy uses an element of a different color, ruining the field effect, meaning that if you want to build it back up again, you'll have to start over, meaning that you wasted however many elements you used already to turn the field whatever color you wanted it to be in the first place. But now you're screwed because elements are one use only and you can't use them again for this battle, and I do not like this combat. What else is there? Defend refills your stamina. You can always run away from every battle, bosses included. But what does it matter? The combat is just bad. It isn't interesting like Chrono Trigger's was with the flashy animations and the dual and triple text. Which leads me to ask, how is this a sequel to Chrono Trigger? Well, it's not. Is it an improvement upon Chrono Trigger? It's not. It's meant to be another game in the Chrono Trigger series. But it's not. It's meant to be another story in another world. But it's not. but it's a new scenario in a similar world with the same characters. Sort of. So let's look at this game as its own standalone experience without tying it in any way to Chrono Trigger. I still don't like it. There's just something about it that I can't look past and I just can't deal with. Once you miraculously finish a fight, the results screen has Lucca's theme to remind you, hey, Chrono Trigger was good, remember? As if to laugh at you for playing this game instead of that one. You can use whatever elements you didn't use to heal, you get some money or a fee. Okay, so, my stupid brain forgot fee meant what is owed, so I thought it was the name of the currency. So, keep in mind, I am aware of the mistake on my part, but I'm leaving it in because it's important to the overall story. So, I am very aware of my own stupidity. Oh, god damn it, she's back. Thought I left you on the boat. Then how are you back here? What, do you watch me sleep? Have you seen it yet? I'll give you a second. There is no experience in this game. You do not get any experience after random encounters, which begs the question, what is the point? You only increase your star level after beating bosses, so outside of doing random battles because you have no choice or to heal, there's no reason to go through them. Your characters don't grow, they don't improve. There's no point to actually go play the game. It's bad. The combat is just bad. I couldn't look past it for a second because if the main form of gameplay isn't fun, why should I put up with it? Wait, no, I'm talking about Chrono Cross, not bullshit Soul Zeldan shit. I also just don't like the character designs. They're like, what if Suikoden was made by Tetsuya Nomura, but in the worst way possible? So, in a normal way. It's something about the colors, I think, or each character's profiles that I find so off-putting. And again, I know we can't really compare this game to Chrono Trigger, but come on! Akira Toriyama's designs are part of the reason why that game is so loved and stands out to this day. Having such basic, bland, but also overly colorful and varied designs really hinders my experience with the game. I'm not an art guy, alright? I'm not out here pretending to know about art, but I do value character designs probably more than I should. And I just cannot with the ones in this game. But then, that leads me to the point that this game literally tries to be Suikoden by having 45 recruitable characters. And it can be difficult, if not impossible, to recruit them all in one run, since some of them join automatically and some are optional, which is to say, missable. I don't dislike having such big casts in theory, but it always adds this intense layer of stress, like if I miss one character, I know I'm not going to be very happy. Even though I have played every single Fire Emblem game multiple times. The story is also nothing to write home about, frankly. But Melly, how do you know the story's bad? You only played 5 hours of it. I read it. I read what happens in the story, and it is nothing to write home about. Especially when you remember, this is a Chrono game. If you want to play a good PS1 RPG made by Square and not Final Fantasy, just play Xenogears. The game that was at one point Chrono Cross. Surge is apparently the Chrono Trigger, because we have to remind the players that this is a Chrono Trigger game, right? Look, okay, I'm not ashamed to admit it. If things were different and Surge was the Fire Emblem, I'd be shaking and crying and emotional, so whatever. Shut the up. I said Fire Emblem. I don't know, the game just didn't click with me in any way. There's games out there that I don't really like, but I play them, I commit. And I committed to this one. And I didn't have a single second of fun. I didn't like the art style, I didn't like the combat, I didn't like anything about it. Maybe one day I'll give it another shot in my own time, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Chrono Cross reminds me of how they describe dried grapes in The Radical Dreamers. You're told they're good, but who really likes raisins? I gave you my time. That's time I'm never getting back. Speaking of, what time is it? Oh, Milla, my eyes hurt. How long have I been playing? It's my birthday? Okay. It feels unreal to actually be holding this game today. It always felt like it was so far away, and here it is. Finally. From the start, I was cautiously optimistic for Tears of the Kingdom. For one, I'm not the biggest Breath of the Wild fan. That's not to say I don't like it, I do. It's just not my favorite in the series, or even in the top 5. Getting up there is not easy, let's put it that way. And secondly, I was really worried as to how this game could top or improve upon Breath of the Wild. What would really change if we're exploring the same world we all spent hundreds of hours in? I say that, yet my financial decisions tell another story. You know what? I know I said Chapter 6 will be Chrono Cross, but I don't care. We're switching to Tears of the Kingdom First Impressions because the Melly cinematic universe is mine to control. If I can retcon episodes into chapters and seasons into books, I can do anything. I am in charge. Me! And when life gives you lemons, you make life take them back! I don't want your goddamn lemons! What am I supposed to do with this? I went all in. Clearly. Even though I was extremely worried for the game, I was also extremely excited because how could they improve upon the formula? And the answer is giving you a lot more to explore. Look, I personally don't, and never have, cared about spoilers in any way. But because I don't want to get cancelled, and because I want you to watch the rest of the video, I am giving a slight spoiler warning going forward, if you're one of those people. Most of the footage I'm using comes from the Great Sky Islands, the very start of the game. However, I reserve the right to use whatever other footage I deem necessary or funny. However, I will not show any story cutscenes after the Great Sky Islands. As for gameplay, because it is a first impressions video, it'll all be fairly light to light, so no real worries there. Regardless of all that, skip to this timestamp that's somewhere around here, if you don't want to see anything about the game, but you do want to see the ending of Book 1. Can we proceed? Are we good? Perfect. Launching the game for the first time, we're not actually shown a menu, instead we're thrown straight into the game, and into the caves from the first trailer. Zelda's walking around with her Switch 2 taking pictures of murals depicting these, goat people? She then reveals these are the mysterious Zonai from the last game, an ancient people that were given no background and very little information until now. But then we see the face of a demon. She's back. Your very existence is highly offensive. So let's address the elephant in the room. This scene is absolutely terrifying. I mean, how the hell is this an E10 Plus game? And I was wrong. This is not Aster from Age of Calamity. If they introduced him in the other game, it's because he was going to be important in this one, but he's not in this. You know what? I am never wrong. Things go poorly after the Hell Demon does his thing. Link's arm becomes disgusting. I hate that, and Zelda is lost, but at the very least, the Master Sword got corrupted, so Fi is corrupted also. Eventually, Link wakes back up, a second time, once again without clothes for some reason, and he meets the original owner of his disgusting mummy arm, Rauru. But what about the lore? Like I mentioned before, the starting area is the Great Sky Archipelago, a surprisingly intricately designed and large area similar to the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild, where you go around unlocking your new abilities. And I don't say this lightly, this game makes Breath of the Wild's abilities seem so archaic and unusable. Seriously, there's no going back to them. The first and most useful is Ultra Hand. Yes, it is. Basically magnesis, but now you can move and hold anything and everything in the world, regardless of them being made of metal. It is such a vast and liberating improvement knowing almost everything you see you can move, rotate, and glue together to use as a weapon, create long platforms to cheat shrines, put together a bunch of trees to make an infinite tree to climb up to areas you're not supposed to be in yet, or to make extremely cursed creations. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Spoiler, I guess this is the one you're going to be using the most because the rest are, to put it lightly, situational. Fuse lets you take any weapon, shield, or arrow and, as the cryptic name suggests, combine them with any item, be it environmental ones like rocks or logs, or enemy drops or other weapons. I've also found as I progress that Fuse is not only an optional power, you need it in order to make good equipment, so understanding it is key. It can also make extremely overpowered weapons, and, like with Ultra Hand, extremely cursed creations. Ascend is, to me, the most forgettable one. Mostly because I forget it exists every time I have to use it. As the name suggests, it lets you ascend. If there is a roof above you up to a certain height, you can just travel through it. But it isn't so free in use as you would expect. The range it has tends to be an issue. Sometimes it can be used, and other times that I think it can be used, it can't. Lastly, there's Recall, the power that I would have thought to be the most interesting, and it is. Making certain objects be rewound in time so they move in the opposite direction, or fly back up in the sky, for instance. It's cool how everything turns grayscale, but you can see color on the object and through the path. Okay, yeah, Ascend and Recall aren't so amazing, but Fuse is great, and Ultra Hand it's the best one. Comparing these to Breath of the Wild, yeah, there's no dice. These are just incredibly better in every single way. Sadly, though, I didn't forget about them. Bombs do not make a return. However, bomb flowers are back. Yeah, bomb flowers, that's what I said. Around the Great Sky Islands, there are no usual enemies, instead it's all Zonai constructs. these robots that also use fuse. Some of them are good, some of them are out to kill you. Also different around here are the shrines. They're no longer the blue and gray things we've come to know and love. Now they're ashen potatoes with green magic lights called Shrines of Light, with not a monk at the end, but a statue of two definitely unknown and mysterious figures. The same rules from Breath of the Wild apply here. You can't climb on the walls, some shrines take away your items, there's an optional treasure you can get, and at the end you get the Light's Blessing. 4 of them lets you take either a heart container or a stamina vessel. If it was Luma who made these shrines, they would be called the Shrines of No Lights, and you'd get the blessing at a cost of 300 rupees, plus a 60% cost increase for each one you get. And each update to the game brings its own 17% increase. And you have to wait at least 3 hours to actually get the blessing, after calling every hour on the hour to have the person at the other end give you 0 information and hang up on you. Oh, and the bill will never be a singular picosecond late. That is Luma Excellence, TM. Fuck Luma. It's once you open the door at the Temple of Time that the game begins. You dive back onto the surface and you realize you need to explore Hyrule from Breath of the Wild, but again. Well, yeah, it was. It's not, but fine, let's address it head on. Key issue number 1. The controls. The only times you use motion controls are for aiming or moving things with Ultra Hand, and even then, at no point is it required. That's correct, but Skyward Sword does benefit from the non-functioning motion controls. Key issue number 2. Repetition. Even though it's the same world, it has changed quite a bit since the upheaval. Things are similar, most landmarks remain the same, but there's enough changes to make you feel like it's a brand new experience. Add to that the new powers to mess around with, and it really does feel like something you've never seen before, because you're in a world you have explored before, but with a different approach. Well, sometimes it gets tedious, but they all serve a purpose to increase your stats, so the gameplay loop is balanced out, as opposed to fighting the same guy 3 times. Furthermore, you don't only explore Hyrule. Everyone knows about the sky, but the depths are also explorable, and it is a massive, dangerous area to explore that adds so much to the overall experience. I cannot explain how shocked I was when I first went down there, because it caught me that off guard. Finally, key issue number 3. The sky. There's actually things to do here. That's it, that's all I have to say. Skyward Sword had nothing to do in the sky aside from pad out game time. Here, there's things to explore. There's shrines, there's good treasure, there's a bunch of islands to explore. Frankly, even though it's not as dense as the surface or the depths, there's still a lot. You know what else is in the sky, Fee? Your corpse. The first thing I did when I started playing was to destroy the Master Sword against a tree. I killed Fee! I did it. Fee is gone. I won't, and I'd do it again. So once you dive, you're free to explore 3 whole areas: Farron Woods, Elden Volcano, and Lanayru Desert, with your trusty Loftwing. And there's so much to do in them. It almost feels like the first real open-world Zelda game since Zelda 1. The sky as well, exploring it feels so magical, combined with the impressively accurate motion Hold on. What? Fee, what did you do? I told you I am never playing Skyward Sword again, not once! No. No! Fuck Luma, fuck Luma, fuck Luma, fuck Luma, fuck Luma, fuck Luma. Wait. That's right. If the Fire Emblem can let me help myself, it stands to reason it can let them help me too, right? Please, myselves, I need you all. Once more. F*** Luma! Believe in us! Melly of Time! Rescue us! Melly of the Mansion! Raise your spirits! Melly of the Sky! Stand unshaken! Melly of the West! Bring us together! Melly of Testing! Fight against fate! Melly of Dreams! We will never play Skyward Sword again! Our fight is not yet over. We'll be right there with you. This time, we return the favor. It's my fault she's here in the first place. I'll make sure she never comes back. Wait, you guys played Skyward Sword again? What? When? Why? Don't worry about it, just give it a few months. Oh, and look in the Wendy's bag again. This is it, Fee. What I should have done long ago! I did it. Fee is gone. Well, I guess we're done here. It's been an honor going through these games these last 6 months, and I'll remember it always. For now, though, I must go on a quest of my own to process all that's happened and how much I've grown. Trust me, I've changed a lot. I mean, have you seen me in Chapter 1?
And during that ending bit, that is the cringiest thing I've ever done. I mean, my god.
How did I even upload that? My god, it's terrible. I'll be gone for a while, but it'll be okay. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure, and for being a part of the rebellion against a corrupt power company that's an extension of a fascist totalitarian government. A real-life Shinra, if you will. As always, my friend, stand tall and stay strong, for tomorrow is a new day. But before I go, I ask that we all say it one more time, for the road. Together now. Fuck Luma. Fuck Luma. Fuck Luma. Fuck Luma. Fuck Luma. Fuck Luma. Fuck Luma.